Like I said, there were so many questions this month, so let's just roll into the next 4. And the first question is, hey Katie, can you talk a little bit about how to stop compulsively shrugging things off? Whenever I talk about anything really upsetting, I always just do the no big deal, it's nothing to worry about phrase. It always seems like in those situations I cannot say different, even though I want to usually. And worse, if whoever starts prying, I'm usually unable to stop myself from spilling the beans. I know exactly where it came from, but the urge has not gone down. Can you give some tips? Thank you, you're amazing. No, you're amazing. You're all amazing. This is a really good question, and I think a lot of us struggle with the not wanting to talk about things and pretending, like downplaying our issues. And I truly believe that comes from our self-talk. And I know just now you're like, Katie, you say everything comes from self-talk, because it does. It's very common for us to downplay all that's happened to us. It's, in a way, survival. When shit is going on and it's bad, in order for us to get out and to keep swimming, so to speak, we have to be like, oh, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. I can just keep going. I got this. Don't worry. And it's our way of like pushing stuff down so we can be resilient and we can rise above. And kudos to our brain for allowing that to happen. But it's not helping us anymore. It's actually hindering us because we can't even actually share how we feel until someone pries, and then we have no control. So it's very black and white. And so what I would encourage you to do is to start talking more nicely to yourself and to start validating your feelings. And I know that's a very loaded thing, but what I would encourage you to do is while you're tracking your feelings, which is the first step, use those feelings charts. I want you to circle 2 or 3 a day. And then when you write down those feelings, I want you to describe them using another word other than that feeling, meaning if the feeling is angry, then I have to say, instead of using the word angry to describe it, I have to say, I've been feeling very on edge and rage-filled, like there's a fire inside. That would be the way I describe anger, okay? Then I want you to, after you've described that feeling, I want you to validate it. I know I feel angry because my feelings were hurt by Sally, and it's okay because what she did was actually very painful for me, even if it wasn't intended to be. We're validating. It's okay to feel how you feel. I know that may take some practice and it's hard work, but start with at least 1 feeling a day. I want you to start validating it, because the sooner we can do that, the sooner we're able to share what's going on in little bits versus feeling like it's all or nothing. Because when we keep stuffing down, we can feel so full of emotions that we haven't processed through that if someone pries enough, it's like the dam has broken and everything comes spilling out. And so we need to get it kind of back to a balance, and it's completely okay to spill at first. You might have like 20 feelings you want to express and you want to validate. That's totally fine. Might be 100. I don't really care, but just meeting you where you're at, getting you to a place where you accept how you feel, you understand how you feel, is a really, really healthy thing to be. It's a really healthy place to get to. And that's kind of what the work I would assume in therapy should look like for you, is just getting to a place where you start to feel a little bit more confident, because this is built out of confidence too, and you can validate the feelings that you're experiencing every day. And with those 2 things working together, I promise this urge to like not share anything or overshare will go away. Question number 2. Hey Katie, for this month's question, I would like to ask about IEPs. Individualized Education Plans is what that stands for, if my memory serves me. When I was in grade school, I remember being on one. When I was in junior and high school, decided that I no longer needed to be on one. And I remember working my keister off to try and prove that I wasn't stupid because I needed extra help. But since I started college, I've noticed that I may need that help again. I don't remember any specifics of why I was on an IEP in the first place, besides a speech impediment and for working memory problems. But I feel like those reasons are less of a problem now than me being able to focus, my insomnia, and me struggling to make it to class due to a number of reasons, including not wanting to do anything but be by myself. This makes me nervous about asking because it feels as though all my hard work has been wasted and that I'm weak for needing to ask for extra help. I was wondering if you had any suggestions for approaching my college and about possibly being put back on an IEP. What a great question. And the reasons we can need to be on an IEP can change. Every year they can be different. And every semester, at least with the ones I've worked on, you have to have your therapist or doctor and teacher all get together again to decide if it's still necessary. So it's completely okay to go off one and then back on. And so just know that that doesn't make you stupid. That doesn't mean anything's wrong with you. We all have different needs. That's why IEPs and 504s exist. But to get into your question about college, now colleges don't have, or at least in my experience, colleges don't have 504s and IEPs in the way that other like schooling does in like kindergarten through our high school senior year, okay? So we have to ask for, you have to go to student services. That's the place you need to find. And then you have to ask them about what special programs they have for people who struggle. And you're going to need a letter from your doctor or your therapist or potentially both. And so you just have to ask them what kinds of plans and programs they have. And I would mention, you know, I had an IEP in school because I struggled with working memory. You don't have to give them a lot of information, but that alone will tell them, okay, he had an IEP. So you need to tell them, hey, I had this IEP and I'm finding myself having a hard time now for different reasons, but what's the process of getting some help like that? And they will let you know. And you can do this over the phone if you're afraid to do it in person. You can write a letter or an email, but I would encourage you to call or go in person so we make sure that you can ask any follow-up questions, because every school is different. Trust me, I've worked with a lot of different universities and community colleges, and a lot of them have a form that they need your therapist or doctor to fill out, or like I said, they'll need both, and they'll want like a letter from them as well. And it's okay to ask your treatment team for these. I write these all the time. Honestly, I have like a kind of a format that I already have in my computer, and I kind of change out certain symptoms and what we're asking for to fit the needs of my particular client, but it doesn't take me very long, so don't worry. But ask them for what you need to get, what paperwork and everything, and then they'll move forward that way. But also I'd encourage you just to talk nicer to yourself about your need for this. These exist for a reason. There are a lot of people who need a little extra support when it comes to school, and it's okay to ask for it. Question number 3. Do you have any tips and tricks on how to deal with crowded places? I'm trying to avoid them as much as possible because I can't really deal with them. I get really tense and stuck in my head. For example, having the feeling I can read people's minds and everyone is judging me and thinking negatively about me. Why do we do that, by the way? Everybody seems to do that, thinking that everybody's talking about them, judging them. My inner critic is at its best in crowded places and I can't shut him down. Sometimes I get so overwhelmed I have to leave that place. So I leave stuff in a crowded supermarket, or I get off at the first possible stop in public transport, and or get a panic attack. Now lately I did something really stupid, or really brave. I ordered tickets for a now already sold out concert of Dodie in February next year. I haven't been to a concert in years, and although I'm really looking forward to it, I'm also really freaking out about it. Do you have any tips on how I can prepare myself for this concert, either by myself or how I can ask my therapist to help me with this? I'm afraid I won't dare to go, or if I'm there, I will totally get overwhelmed and leave and or have a panic attack. I just really want to enjoy this live concert, and it would be awesome if I would manage myself in this specific situation. But I think it could also help me in other crowded situations. First of all, I'm so excited for you. Dodie's concerts are amazing. I went to one a few months back. She's great. But it's good that we know now, and we have plenty of time to prepare, because what I'm going to want you to do is exposure therapy. And I know that sounds crazy, and you just hid, and you're like, why is that the advice you're giving? Trust me, re-watch my video on exposure therapy. I'm going to link it in the description, because we're going to need to get you to a place where you know in a crowded area that you're okay. You're going to need to be able to talk yourself out of it. You're going to need to be able to have resources you pull from. Maybe that's a friend that comes along with you if they have a ticket as well. Maybe those are certain things you do, or like a fidget toy you bring, or mantras you say, or breathing techniques. There could be a whole gamut of things. But if we go through the process of exposure therapy now, it gives us plenty of time to get you prepared for this concert. It also gives you plenty of time to like go to other situations that may be a little crowded, or imagine we're going to a crowded room or crowded grocery store, and we'll be able to calm ourselves down, know it's going to be okay, and re-engage. So that's really my advice. Work with your therapist though. It's really important. I would tell them you're really wanting to do exposure therapy. I know it may be hard for you to say this, but trust me, it's not as scary as it seems. Exposure therapy actually teaches us that what we're really afraid of doesn't necessitate that fear. It's almost like it's so freeing. Many of my patients are scared going in and then feel so free by the time we've worked all the way up their hierarchy. The hierarchy is the thing you set up with your like anxious thoughts and worries and panic. And so once we've worked through it, they're like, wow, I thought it was gonna be way worse than it was, because we go at your own pace and it's slow and steady. And you very, very rarely, if it's done properly, ever have to go back and redo it. It's like that fear is completely gone from your brain. Isn't that amazing? So I would just encourage you, rewatch my video. Like I said, I'll link in the description. I think that will really, really help. And then you'll be able to enjoy the concert. Yay! And finally, question number 4. Katie, I was wondering if you could talk about PNES, as I am currently getting tests for it as I faint during panic attacks, which is not supposed to happen due to blood pressure going up. and fainting being going down. So it's like the opposite of what's supposed to happen. This has scared me a little as I don't really know much about it. Have you ever treated someone with it? Now, I've only had one patient ever have PNES, and I want to just tell you what it is so that we're all on the same page and we all understand what we're talking about. Now, and I took some notes so I didn't miss anything. PNES is psychogenic non-epileptic seizures. And a lot of people have these and they're often misdiagnosed with epilepsy. And they'll be diagnosed with epilepsy for a long period of time before they realize that it's really PNES. And the reason these are different than epilepsy is because when an epileptic seizure happens, they have electrical discharges that go on in the brain, and that's how they know it's epilepsy. PNES doesn't have those discharges. Instead, these are a psychological origin and are one type of non-epileptic seizure. Now, the limited experience that I have with PNES, like I said, I've only had one patient. I had to do a lot of research at the time, and so I kind of was going back through my notes to remember what we worked on. But people with PNES tend to, it looks like regular seizures. That's why they're usually diagnosed with epilepsy. But again, like I said, these are psychological in origin, and in my experience, it came out of trauma. And it's almost like our brain just doesn't know how to process. You know, we talk about like dissociation, like our pulling the ripcord. This is kind of in my mind. I know this is not based on research, you guys. This is just in my experience. This was another way for their brain to like try to manage all that had happened. There's nothing that we do to cause it. It's almost just like an overwhelm in our system and in our brain, and it causes these seizure-like experiences. And so they'll do a bunch of testing to figure out if this is what causes it. And if it is PNES that they find, don't worry. There's a lot of treatment that is found to be really, really helpful. And you guessed it, psychotherapy. And more importantly, they talk about CBT being a really good type to work on, but I think trauma-focused treatment could be best. If you find that this is coming from a trauma in your life, if that's what you know in your experience, I referred my patient out to a trauma specialist, and it was so beneficial for her. So I would just encourage you to consider where this could be coming from. What could have caused it? Is it a trauma? Is it a lot of psychological pain, maybe like emotional abuse, which I again would think is a trauma, but depending on what your experience is, we have to figure out where this is coming from, what maybe could have caused it. In the same way we would look for the root of the root and work on that in therapy, that's what we're gonna need to do for this. Don't worry, these aren't gonna continue to happen forever and ever and ever. We find that with proper treatment, they can go away. But just make sure you're honest. Talk to them and tell them everything they're asking as much as you can, because we want to make sure you get properly diagnosed. Because again, it could be epilepsy. And it's important that they run all these tests and figure it out to ensure that you are diagnosed with whatever it is that's causing these. Because if it is epilepsy, it's a whole nother type of treatment, and that is completely out of my realm. But with PNES, it is something that is treatable and it can get better. I hope you found those answers helpful. Thank you as always for your support this month and every month. I hope you love these videos. I'm considering maybe doing live streams where I answer these so that we can get follow-ups and it's just more of a conversation. I don't know, I'll poll you guys later just to see what you're thinking about that. And I will see you next time.